There's a composition concept you might have heard of that's been a favorite of mine since I learned about it. The rule of thirds. It's where you divide the canvas into a 3x3 grid and place subjects at specific points on that grid. I first learned about it in photography, but it's also used in illustration and design and many other visual arts. Before we get into exactly what it is and how to apply it, let me first thank the sponsors of this video. My patrons, who not only get early access and sneak peeks at what I'm working on, but some of them also get monthly stickers and art postcards. If you would like to join as well, please check out the links below. Thank you as always for making it possible for me to create. Okay, so the rule of thirds. It's a grid on a canvas, but it's not the grid drawing technique you might have used to split up a reference image and make it easier to duplicate. So if that's what you were expecting, sorry, but this is not that video. But personally, I like the rule of thirds better anyways, so hopefully you'll stick around. To get started, I'll explain how it works, when to use it, and then I'll give you a tutorial on how to make your own template in Procreate that you can use for all of your future artworks. Start with the drawing surface you're going to use. Pretend like you're playing tic-tac-toe, or noughts and crosses if you're in the UK, and divide the width and height of the surface into 3 equal parts to get 9 grid spaces. The 4 points where the lines intersect are where the focal points of your drawing should be centered around, and where you want to draw your viewer's eyes to. So, for example, in this painting of mine, the focal point or the subject matter I want to highlight is the pirate. So in the sketch phase, I made sure to put the face of the pirate character in the middle of the top left intersection point. Anything around here should be in focus and have the highest contrast, so there's a lot of visual interest. And the less important things in the picture, I'll put farther away from these points, and I might even make it a little less focused or have less contrast. I want the eyes to go to the pirate first, so I put the pirate's face on an intersecting point. And since the parrot is secondary in this painting, sorry parrot, I didn't put it directly on an intersecting point of the grid. However, I used other composition techniques to balance it out still, but that'll be another video. By the way, say pirate's parrot 5 times real fast. Here's another painting of mine as an example again, but this time I have multiple focal points. The primary subject of this one is this angel character here, and then the setting sun. So I've put the character on the bottom right grid point, with the sun on the point directly opposite to them, so it has a bit of a nice balance that way. Anything else is not as important here, like the sky and the clouds and the water, so there's nothing really of importance in the other grid points. And I've even blurred everything a little bit outside of them, just to add a little bit more depth, and also because I'm a little bit lazy. By the way, if you like these, I have prints of them along with a bunch of other paintings available on my website. I'll put the links below. But all of this really only works as long as I'm planning ahead and have a pretty fleshed out idea in mind, which doesn't always happen. So sometimes I'll end up just noodling around and sketching, and then decide, hey, it actually might look good if I finished it. So I decide to start rendering it, but then I have to start thinking of a background. Well, not always, but I'm trying to do it more because no practice, no improvement. Even if I've already got a sketch down, I'll still move things around in the grid to see what looks the best. Obviously, this works best with digital. Like I said, you gotta plan ahead with traditional, which is probably why I don't do it as often, but it still applies, and you can still sketch and do thumbnails to figure out compositions before committing to that arches paper or that big, huge canvas that you just haven't used yet because you're afraid of ruining it. And believe me, I'm calling myself out on this one too. But remember that art supplies are only wasted if you don't use them, so use them. Okay, so now that I've shown you how that works, let me show you a more practical tutorial of how to make a template that you can use for your future artworks. I'll show you how to do it in Procreate here, but this should also work in other drawing apps. The good thing about this is that you only need to make it one time though, and reuse it for any size of canvas. Obviously, this next part will be focused on you digital artists, since the dimensions of traditional media surfaces are usually predetermined, unless you stretch your own canvas or something, in which case you're way more advanced in this video anyway. You'll probably already have a piece of paper, a sketchbook, or a canvas that's already pre-made for you. But the great thing about this concept is that it still applies to any sort of dimension. Portrait, landscape, 4K, even square. The rule of thirds works with any of these, digital or traditional. So, going back to how to make our template. If you're short on time though, you can skip all this and I'll have a link down below for a template that you can download and use for free. First, we'll start off by creating a new square canvas. This will make it easier to use the snapping features in Procreate in just a bit. Other drawing apps should also have a similar snapping function, but I don't have any experience with those, so don't quote me on that. However, if you're watching this and use Clip Studio Paint or another drawing app and know the equivalent feature, please drop it in the comments. Let's resize our new square canvas because I know we artists don't like to do any maths, and this way we don't have to do any. Go to the actions, then crop and resize. In the settings menu, make sure the chain icon is highlighted so that the width and height will be linked together. Then tap on either one of the numbers and it'll pull up this little number pad and change it to 3000 pixels. Make sure that the pixels is selected on the left-hand side here. And then that'll be our less math canvas that we'll use. Go back to actions and then turn on the drawing guide. Then tap on edit drawing guide. The first one selected should be the 2D grid, which is what we want, which is great. And then tap on the number next to the grid size. This will bring up that number pad again, and then change it to 1000 pixels. Then drag the blue dot in the middle to the top corner. Actually, it can be any corner, it doesn't really matter at this point. And change the color of the grid so that you can actually see it on your canvas. And then you'll notice that there's your grid. Now, if you're just going to have a 3000 by 3000 grid, this will work fine. But we'll probably have some other dimensions that we want to work with. So we need to make a new layer and then take whatever brush that you want to use. A standard pen brush is normally fine, doesn't need to have anything fancy on it. Make sure in the layers menu that your layer has drawing assist turned on. This way, anything that you draw will be locked to the actual grid itself. Then using your drawing guides as your guide, draw in your grid lines. They don't need to be exact or anything because really it's meant to be a guide, not rules. So maybe I guess it should be called the guide of thirds. And there we have our new grid. You can export this as a transparent PNG file and then you can import it into any other file that you've got, or you can just copy the whole thing and then paste it into another canvas that you already have. Once you've pasted that in, you can transform the layer since it's square right now. Select freeform in the transform menu, and then stretch and snap the edges of the new layer to the edges of your actual canvas. This way, the grid will still be in perfect thirds no matter what size your canvas is. Using this guide for your sketches and thumbnails makes it much easier to figure out some interesting compositions for your next art piece. It's better when you're still sketching out your piece, but it's still useful as a way to check if your final work looks okay, and you can make some adjustments or add some things if it feels like there's, a little something missing to your piece. That's it for this video, and I hope you found it helpful. Lately, I'm trying to learn so I can get better at making art, and I figure why not share that knowledge with other people as I go. So I'll keep making videos like these soon if you're interested in learning along with me. And once again, I'd like to shout out my Shining Star Patreon members. It's thanks to their support that I'm able to continue making free content like this for everyone else. I know a lot of us are struggling to make ends meet right now, but I want my art to still be accessible as possible. With the support of my patrons, I have the time and capability to make and share my art to a wider audience. Basically, I'm only able to do this as my full-time job because of them, and I can't thank them enough.